Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between affect with an A and effect with an E. Let's get started. Okay, let's begin by talking with effect with an A. In speech, effect with an A and effect with an E sound the same. At the beginning of this lesson, I emphasized the differences between the two, just to make it clear which one I was talking about. But actually, in everyday speech, effect and effect are pronounced the same way. So, effect with an A, in your spelling, you need to consider this, can be used in two ways. First is the most common way of using this. It's as a verb. The verb affect means to cause a change in someone or something. So this causes some kind of transformation or some change happens, and we describe that in verb form with effect with an A. Let's take a look at a few example sentences that use this. First, rainy weather negatively affects my mood. Rainy weather negatively affects my mood. So this sentence means that rainy weather negatively causes a change in my mood. So we use effect with an A here. Effect with an E would be incorrect. Another example. Our boss's anger affected our team's morale. Our boss's anger affected our team's morale. So in this sentence, effect with an A is used here to show that our boss's anger caused this change in our team's morale. So morale means like the level of motivation and the level of happiness of a group. That's morale. So we use effect with an A here. Again, effect with an E would be incorrect. Finally, his new medication affects his muscles. So again, that means this new medication this person is taking has some kind of change or created some kind of change in his muscles. His new medication affects his muscles. So this is what we use effect with an A to do. Before we go on to the second point here, I want to compare this to the first use of effect with an E that I'm going to talk about in this lesson. So let's take a look. Effect with an E is used primarily as a noun. Again, as with effect with an A, there are a couple different uses of effect with an E, but most commonly we use effect with an E as a noun, and this noun means the result of a change in someone or something. So it's kind of like the outcome. It's the change itself. What happened? We use effect with an E to express that. So we can actually use the same topics, the same kind of sentence that we used here, but we just need to change the sentence structure a little bit. So I'll show you what I mean in these example sentences. First, rainy weather has a negative effect on my mood. Rainy weather has a negative effect on my mood. So in this sentence, we see exactly the same idea as in this sentence, yeah? But the difference here is that we need to create a sentence structure that uses effect as a noun. So for that reason, we have rainy weather has a negative effect on my mood. In this sentence, when we used effect with an A, we said rainy weather negatively affects. Here we have to change the structure of the sentence. Rainy weather has an effect. To have an effect. You can kind of think of this as a set pattern, to have an effect. Both of these sentences are 100% correct. It's up to you to choose which one you want to use. Let's look at another example sentence and compare it to the first one. Our boss's anger had an effect on our team's morale. Our boss's anger had an effect on our team's morale. So again, we have the same topic, the same thing that's causing some kind of change here, right? That part does not change. But we use this same have structure to have an effect on something else. So A has an effect on B is the pattern that you can use if that's helpful for you. In this case, it's a past tense structure. So had an effect with an E on our team's morale. So the same idea is being communicated as in the first set of examples. Finally, let's look at the last one. His new medication has an effect on his muscles. His new medication has an effect on his muscles. So again, effect with an E is used as a noun. It refers to the outcome or the result of a change. Effect with an A as a verb refers to causing something to change or causing someone to change. So again, we can use these two words to express the same ideas in sentences. There's no difference in terms of more correct or more polite or less polite. It's up to you to determine which one you prefer, and you can mix and match. So with that said, let's go now to point 2 for both of these words, because this is where things get quite different. So let's take a look at effect with an A and talk about the second use. So the second use of effect with an A is as a noun, but this is very uncommon. This use of effect with an A is not really used in everyday conversation. This use is used more with doctors, medical professionals, psychologists, people who deal with human behavior. This use of effect means the expression of feelings and emotions with the face and body. The expression of feelings and emotions with your face and with your body. So that means how you express yourself, right? So the noun for this is affect. Affect. So notice the pronunciation change. We don't say affect here. The emphasis changes with this noun form. We say affect. Affect. So when you're writing, it looks the same, but in spoken English, this word as a noun referring to this, the expression of emotions, is pronounced affect. So let's look at this in a few example sentences, in a couple. That woman has an anxious affect. That woman has an anxious affect. So that means that woman's emotional display, her body language, her facial expressions, these things together are anxious. So that woman has an anxious affect. That's what this sentence communicates. But again, we don't use sentences like this very much in everyday conversation. This is a sentence that could possibly be used by a professional, someone who studies human behavior, emotions, feelings, and so on. This is not something I would generally say. If I wanted to express this same kind of idea in everyday conversation, would probably say something like, that woman looks anxious. That woman looks anxious. But a professional person, maybe taking notes about someone, might say that woman has an anxious affect. Okay, one more example of this. This patient has a normal affect. This patient has a normal affect. So normal affect means there are normal displays of emotion and feeling in this person. So when they're supposed to feel angry or sad or happy and so on, all of those emotional displays are normal. So we might express that with a sentence like this. This patient has a normal affect. So again, this is probably something a professional, a medical professional, psychological professional might use to talk about their work and their patients that they're seeing. So again, we don't use this in everyday conversation very much, but you may find it somewhere in a news report or in other documentation. So this part is kind of just for your information. This part here is the key takeaway for effect. And note the pronunciation change too. Okay. Finally, let's finish this lesson by looking at point 2 for effect with an E. So effect with an E can be used as a verb, and this use is fairly common. It's not as common as the noun use of effect, but you may see this from time to time, so it's good to know about this. So effect with an E as a verb is used to mean to bring about or to cause something to happen. So we see this a lot in reports of change, in reports of like groups of people or certain like policy changes or like community members doing something in order to bring something else about. So let's take a look at some examples so you can see what I mean. First one, our proposal effected positive changes. So effected, in this case past tense, effected positive changes. That means we can replace effect with this kind of idea. Our proposal brought about positive changes in our company, or our proposal caused positive changes to happen in our company. So these have the same feel, but we use effect to say that very efficiently. Our proposal affected positive changes in our company means our proposal caused positive changes to happen or brought about positive changes in our company. So you'll see this use a lot, like effect plus the word change after effect. This is quite a common pattern with this verb. Let's look at one more example. The medical policy adjustment affected change in the country. The medical policy adjustment affected change in the country. So again, we could replace this affected, in this case past tense, with one of these. So the medical policy adjustment brought about change in the country. So we use this effect to kind of efficiently say that something caused something else to change. So a good hint word when you're seeing this kind of effect and you're trying to decide, is this the noun form, is this the verb form? You might look and see if change is after it. It won't be there 100% of the time, but this is a good hint word to look for. So these are the two uses of effect with an E that you are most likely to see when you are reading and writing, and when you are speaking, of course, too. It's important to know these differences. And these are the differences and the different uses of effect with an A. Again, this is the most common form, the verb form here. So I hope that this lesson helped you understand the differences between these two words. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making some example sentences with this information, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Also, if you like this lesson, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. See you next time. Bye. Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.